Good evening, everybody. Welcome to debate night by the North Reading Republican Town Committee. It's our belief that even though you have world politics, state politics, and you have local politics, even though we have that, I find that the local politics is just as important to us as what is going on in the state or in the in the world. It's very important that the issues that are going to be spoken to about tonight are going to be impacted. It's going to impact us all individually. So this is why it's important. And I think that the turnout tonight reflects that. We have great candidates running, and they have their perspective and their issues that they think is important for the town moving forward. So before we start, I just want to say, may we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you again. Okay. The format, what we're going to do is we're going to start with the moderator, then followed by the planning commission, then the school committee, and then the select board. Everyone will have 4 minutes to introduce themselves. It'll be a sharp 4 so that we don't wind up here at 1 o'clock in the morning. So, with regard to the mic, I think you can hear me. Maybe I'm too loud, I don't know, but I believe you can hear me. If you speak, please speak clearly into the microphone, because that's very important. Now, some of the candidates do not have an opponent, all right? But I think it's important to have even those that are do not have an opponent. It's important for the community to hear what they've done, what they're looking to accomplish anyway. But I also will have everybody stay through the Q&A because they may have a question for the moderator, they may have a question for the CPC. We know they have questions for the select board and the school committee. Now, let me say, Kate Manupali is on her way, but she was in Framingham, and that's one of the reasons why we had to adjust the time slot from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock, because it's important to hear from all candidates. Right, so she arrives a little bit later, she'll go right into the mix as if she was here all the time. There are big issues facing our town. There's the wastewater project, Proposition 2.5, affordable dwelling units, known as ADUs. There's a stretch and a super stretch code band-aids coming down towards our way. The NBTA adjacent communities compliance by the state, home rule, fire station, and one of the questions that was brought up to me quite a bit was, how come the CPC is not included on the warrants, the town warrants? And so those are the things, those are the big issues that we can find. We will, I want to thank, before I forget, Kitties. Is Debbie here? Debbie Burkmeyer?
She's on the other side.
She's on the other side. She's working hard. I have to give a great shout out for Debbie for doing this. It's all gratis. It's her way of giving back to the community, as she has, for her restaurant, has fed us all often and well. And so we need to thank her for her willingness to do this. We do have some of the school committee members here that are established. Would you mind standing up if they're here? I thought I saw, yep, there goes the chairman. And we also have select board members here in the audience. Vincenzo. Could stand up for a second? Yeah. Okay. I want to thank them also. So with no further ado here, let's get this thing rolling. I know that John Murphy's been a town moderator for how many terms? Years? Forever?
18, 19, I don't know which one it is.
So why don't you come up here and it's 4 minutes. Irene will have a clock there. She will time you and let me know. She'll be right in front. She's wearing, that's the beautiful woman right in front there. Okay. Also known as my wife. I've got to say the right thing.
Good evening, everyone. I'm John Murphy. I'm running for town moderator for the, 19th time, might be 20th. I'm not 100% sure. Just quick background. I came to town in 1995. In 1995, and before the end of 1995, I was the vice chair of the elementary school building committee. So I completed the little school project. I took over as chairman when the contractor went belly up. So fortunate. I started the hood school project. I stepped aside from the elementary school building committee to run for board of selectmen. I lost that. I got on the trustees of trust funds to keep giving back to the community in a way I could. And a couple of years later, I ran for board of selectmen, and I served on the board of selectmen for 1 term. It was a lot of time and a lot of work, and hats off to Steve for doing it as long as he has. But when the town moderator position opened up, I said that's a perfect way for me to get back to the community. But it also provides me the time for my career and for my family. I won't share with you my perspectives tonight, because when I go to town meeting, I'm kind of Switzerland. I get to moderate the debate. So I'm not up there telling you my opinion on any article or any issues. I'm there to follow the town charter, Mass General Law, state law, and also Robert's Rules of Order. And I'm there to run the meeting efficiently and effectively so that people aren't unruly, so that the debate goes on and the votes are accurate and fair, and both sides get to speak their piece. It's been a pleasure to do that all these years. Some years are better than others. I was early on able to put forth a bylaw change so that certain items could be combined together into one article. In particular, the revolving funds. So that's one motion as opposed to 10, 15, or 20 different motions. So that helps to speed up the meeting, but it doesn't stifle the debate. And the other item that was changed early on in my tenure was on a 2/3 question. I can declare that it carried, and because sometimes it's abundantly clear that it's almost a majority. It's almost everyone, but there's a loud group, but it's very small. So I've been able to enact that many times to make the meeting go quickly and smoothly. I'm excited for this next term, and I look forward to continuing to serve the community. And I appreciate your vote on election day. And good luck to all the candidates up here. Thank you.
Thank you, John, I appreciate that. Very good insight. Okay. Now, James DeCola is not able to be here because he had medical surgery to attend to. Okay, so he's unable to attend. It's nothing major or anything like that, but he felt that it was better that he not attend at this point. Also, and James DeCola is running for the Housing Authority. He's unopposed. Now we have for the Community Planning Commission. We have Maxwell Murphy. I don't see Ryan is not here, so and I don't know why, to be honest with you. Maxwell, Murphy, would you come on up and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and some of your plans?
Alrighty, can everybody hear me all right?
Yeah.
Great. Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. It's great to see so many concerned citizens out here. My name is Maxwell Murphy. I was born and raised here in North Reading. I graduated the high school in 2018. I went on to study at Bentley University, studying in finance, minoring in environmental science. I spent some time in Boston and Cambridge working in private equity and investment banking. Realizing that wasn't for me, I came back to town. I took up an apprenticeship with a well-known builder here in the community. I've been a carpenter ever since. Here in the community, I'm very involved and passionate about our wonderful hometown. We have a beautiful, what I consider to be an idyllic New England community with a lot of rich history. That being said, I'm involved with the Historical Society, maintaining their beautiful Putnam House grounds and historic complex. I'm with the North Reading Company of Minute Militia as a lieutenant, representing our community and the rich history that we have. Furthermore, I'm the Eagle Scout and Scoutmaster of the North Reading Troop 750, which has been a pleasure. I'm running for the Community Planning Commission because I believe that the Commission does a lot of important things that manage our community and the vision of our community and what our community is and is going to be. I think for a lot of us, we feel passionately about having the rural feel of our community that's still left, the space, the wild spaces that we have, and the history that we have, and maintaining the feel. I think a lot of folks I've heard have moved to the community because of the feel that it has. It has a small town feel, it has a local feel, and a lot of people cherish that and want to maintain that. So my goal with joining the Community Planning Commission is to make sure that we remain the community that we are in the ways that we cherish it for, but that we are able to move forwards into the future under a more sustainable and local economic model that allows for small businesses to flourish, for people to flourish, and for homeowners to flourish. And I think we struggle with a lot of issues right now having to do especially with taxes, affordability in the town, young folks like myself, as well as the older folks in the community. Both parties who are well vested and passionate about the community are finding it harder to stay here or build a family here. And so those are issues that we need to address in terms of our development, our zoning, our taxes, and elsewise. And so I'd like to get involved to try and help and address some of these issues. I think it's pretty clear on how I stand. It's community first, local first, and the people here first. I've really come out to try and hear a lot more of the voices of the people in the community and what they would like to see happen in the future. I think there's some really big things coming up that could fundamentally change the way our community is, that we'll all talk about tonight. MBTA, sewer, some of the other big projects. It's important that we evaluate all of the options that we have and really make sure that we focus on what's best for the people in the long term. Ultimately, we want to maintain that small town feel. So how do we move forward with some of these big things and stay the town that we love and care about? So if you want to talk more about this after the panel here, I would love to talk with many of you. Otherwise, just thank you for having me. Thank you to Jeff and the Republican Town Committee, and I look forward to serving the people of North Reading, and good luck to everybody else.
Before I move on, there's something I meant to say. As you all know, we had a horrific fire at 114 Haverhill Street, in which 4 seniors have lost their residence. And from what I understand right now, 3 are staying in someone's house to be able to sleep on their couch until they can work things out. The slow wheels of government. And then one is in a hotel, if they're still in that hotel, I don't know. Lena Simone put together a GoFundMe page. You can find that on Community Connection. And if you have the desire, please contribute to that. We do normally have a fundraiser here for our scholarship drive. But we're gonna, in lieu of that, we are collecting funds for those families who are displaced. So if you don't mind contributing that, what we will do is we will probably create gift cards, divide them evenly to them so that they can handle everyday needs that they have. So don't be bashful to contribute to that. If you already have, then you already have, and I think that's fantastic. But this is about community coming together and helping 4 people who are in dire need. Now, I also saw the woman of the hour enter. Where did she go?
You know what, I'm just gonna pass this around, and if you could all just forward it from table to table, and I'll pick it up over there.
So why don't we proceed? And so the next is the school committee. We have incumbent Richard McGowan. He's been on the school committee 3 years, 3 terms?
2 terms.
2 terms. Okay, well, come on up.
Thanks, everybody. Really glad to see so many people out tonight. So my name is Rich McGowan. I'm running for school committee. This will be running for my 3rd term. I first came on in 2018. My wife and I moved to town in 1998. Our son was born here and went through the system and graduated in 2018, the year that I joined the committee. I actually made that choice to wait until he was all done before I joined the committee, so that I could have the time to really dedicate to what can be oftentimes a very time-intensive effort. But before that, I spent a lot of time working in the schools. I was on the school councils, both at the Batchelder School, at the middle school, and at the high school. I spent some time, I was on the search committee for the current high school principal, and just working in those volunteer positions, working around teachers and administrators. I really came to appreciate how the power of public education and how a strong professional leadership of a school system can really have a positive impact on our children's lives, our children's future, and on our community as a whole. And I think, I'm constantly amazed by how our schools contribute to the community and just the great work that's done there year after year. Some of the experiences since I've been on the committee, I've served as the vice chair for the last 4 years. I was on the search committee for the superintendent, for the current superintendent, Dr. Daly. I've negotiated a number of contracts. We've just completed, I've really spent the last year negotiating contracts, first with the paraprofessionals union last year, and this year we're very close to finalizing a contract with the teachers union as well. Obviously, everyone knows that the town is looking at some financial challenges. We all have different opinions about that. We felt on the school committee very strongly that we wanted to be honest with what we thought, where we stood with the budget this year, and we don't take that lightly. We understand the impact that an override could have on the community, and we're not we wanted to make sure that we offered a choice to the community. At the end of the day, the community will decide, and we will continue to do the best we can to provide a great education for our students, and that's what we're really focused on. So thanks for your time, and I look forward to hearing from you later.
Thank you, Mr. McGowan. Okay. Next from the school committee is Jennifer Leanders. Am I pronouncing that correctly when I say Leanders?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
That is correct. My name is Jennifer Leanders. I hope you see my signs all around town. I'm very excited to be running for the North Reading School Committee. I moved to this town 12 years ago, growing up a couple towns over in Wakefield. And since the day I moved here, I have fallen in love with this town. I own more North Reading gear than necessary, even 2 pairs of green and yellow shoes. I'm proud to live in North Reading, and I'm even prouder to say that my sons get to be from North Reading. I have 2 boys, Lyden and Finn, back there in the back corner. They're in 4th and 2nd grade of the batch, and I am in awe of the job that the teachers, the paraprofessionals, and the counselors do every day. Now, why am I running? Wherever I have lived, I've always wanted to make my little corner of the world a little better. Learned that from my parents, who are also back there. They, started the Wakefield Basketball Association in Wakefield when it was only boys playing at the Y. They wanted girls to be able to play. They helped run Pop Warner, Neshoba Valley, all these key programs. So I learned it from them, and I thought, what better way than helping to ensure our schools remain incredible, safe spaces where students can thrive and receive the best education possible. Now, each of our schools in town has its own unique identity fostered by the parents, the teachers, the administrators, and I'd like that to be able to continue as we face unprecedented fiscal times and a growing mental health crisis. I feel compelled to run for school committee because I think we need volunteers who know how to have difficult decisions and can bring people together rather than divide them. Now, the budget. I know that's on everyone's mind. Money that the school system has enjoyed for the past several years from COVID is no longer being provided. Inflation is rising at an astronomical rate, and we want to continue to be able to attract the best and the brightest. And my sons have been lucky enough to have some of the best and the brightest. I want every child in North Reading to have that opportunity. We see it every day at the grocery store, CVS, what restaurants we're going to. It's a burden on a lot of families, including my own, and decisions have to be made. And corners sometimes have to be cut. But I don't think corners can be cut when it comes to losing teachers, school adjustment counselors, and other classroom-facing positions. We have to make choices that could lead to larger classroom sizes. And a big reason why people move to North Reading is because of our school system. I understand as the town grows, the DPW grows, the fire department grows, everything grows, but the health of a town is dependent on the quality of the education our children receive. I want to make sure that there's always a pot of money, right? It's always going to be there, but it's how you prioritize it. And every city, town, household has budget issues, and it's how you prioritize it. In addition to the budget crisis, we do have a mental health crisis facing our children. I'd like to find a way to have extended recess, more unstructured play, more outdoor time, possibly for the elementary, the middle school, grade appropriate ways. Last year I volunteered for Teacher Appreciation Week at the Batchelder School for lunch and recess. And I told my son that I got to play quarterback for the day, and I was so excited. And I understood that recess was only 15 minutes, but by the time they lined up, went back out, it ends up being 7 or 8 minutes, and it's just not enough. And kids need more time to play, decompress, not be tethered to their desks, whatever level is at, they need some time for that. I do understand this is not as easy as it sounds. I did have them call the State House, the chair of the Education Committee, our representatives, and I'm gonna start wrapping up, but I have found some other ways, I think, through Department of Elementary and Secondary Education that I'd love to talk to you all about this. I want to talk about what makes me different. I'm a communications professional. I'm only one of the only women principals in my company. I specialize in crisis communications. Clients hire me to learn about their business. I'm a calm, reasonable, and stable force to guide them through in their most trying times. I have to learn about a client in a small amount of time and provide sound judgment. Previous to that, I was the communications director for DPH, an adjunct professor at BU. And I think that there are members here that are connected to the finance committee or on the finance committee, and I think my skill set complements that greatly. I also believe that it's critical for any governing board to have a balance of men and women. Having women on committee means greater diversity of skills, experiences, new perspectives, and I look forward to talking to you all.
Uh, 4 minutes is a lot of
I
time,
know.
but not a lot of time, right?
But I'll talk to anyone after, I have a lot more to say.
So now we have Timothy Sutherland, candidate for school committee as well. Welcome you. Thank you.
Hi, can everyone hear me okay? Usually people can hear me just fine in meetings, so I think we'll do okay here. My name is Tim Sutherland. I'm running for school committee. I am a third grader at the batch and a sixth grader with the trials and tribulations of the first year of the middle school, which is was a big transition for those of you that rising fifth graders in the sixth grade. That is an interesting time for a family as you move from elementary school and middle school. A little bit about me. I've had a background and a lifelong desire to volunteer in our communities. Started out when I was very young. I was a volunteer at our local YMCA, doing camp counselor work, counselor in training, lifeguarding, basically building my way up to be a camp director when I was 21 years old. I managed a camp of 150 kids, ages 5 to 11, had to learn all the different state rules that we had to deal with, the different personalities of the children, the way the parents like things to happen within the camp culture, and the general care of the children that we had. Going into that, I then went to WPI for school, graduating with my master's. I was a teaching assistant there, teaching math and computer science. My last year there, I won Teaching Assistant of the Year. So naturally, I said, you know what I'm gonna do when I go home? I'm gonna substitute teach. That was a terrible idea. I gained a firsthand appreciation in that moment that teaching is one of the most difficult things you can ask a professional to do. The things I thought I could do, running a camp, all that, sorry about this mic. With what our teachers did in the short time, the 2 months I had before my summer break, before school was out, learning so much about how teachers operated, did that work? And what they like to do and what worked with kids and what didn't work, I learned a lot. Like this? There we go. Moving to North Reading, I spent time, closer. Moving to North Reading, there we go. So moving to North Reading, continued my volunteering tradition as a soccer coach for North Reading Youth Soccer. I've been doing that now for 7 years. Full time, both my son and daughter's teams have decided that they want to play soccer year round. So we do that year round. We do indoor at Danvers Indoor, and then outdoor here at North Reading. What I've learned about that is that each and every kid in our school, in our soccer team, they need a different way of learning. We were terrible when we first started playing soccer. We didn't know what we were doing. I didn't know what I was doing as a coach. And what I learned very quickly was that each of the children had a unique way of learning and the way to be coached in order to be successful. Now we have thriving teams. Our team is doing well. They're getting promoted every year. And it was really until I understood how to interact with each and every child and the difference that they needed, that made a difference. And I think that is a lot of ways what our schools are doing in a very good way now to be able to ensure that our children are doing well in our school system. 1 minute. So my philosophy for school committee, very simple. I'm gonna bring leadership, I'm gonna bring advocacy and collaboration. I'm a strong leader at Raytheon. I manage a portfolio over $160 million every year. I know how to lead teams and I know how to manage a budget. From an advocacy perspective, I will go and advocate for these children like I do for my own. I understand each of the personal needs that each of these children have, and I understand the different ways that we have to approach our educational system to be able to benefit all of our children. And then collaboration. The biggest thing here is our school committee has to operate differently. We've talked about the budget issues and we're going to hear much more about that today. Our school committee not only has to work internally as a board, it has to work across all of our town boards moving forward given the financial challenges that we have. And that, one of my key components in there is my experience on the finance committee. I understand how to work across town, how to work with the select board and the CPC so we can make meaningful progress for the future. Thank you.
I feel your soccer pain, by the way. I coached soccer. I never even played the game. and I was a baseball guy, and I tried to teach soccer. Boy, did my son give me grief. So, okay, let's move on. How's that basket moving around? People, it's been great, fantastic. Also, now let's move on to the selectmen and selectwomen. Catherine Manipelli made it here, fantastic. I was hoping you make it.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, too, for the Republican Town Committee. 4 minutes I have, I see. My name is Catherine Fallon Manipelli. I live at Valley Road. I moved here about 22 years ago with my husband to raise a family. We've added 4 children since then. My children are all older, but have certainly benefited from the amazing school system here. We moved here for the school system. I still have 1 child in high school right now, so in my off time, I probably am the loudest cheerleader for Maskers, Notorious, Chorus, Choir, and all the shows and all the fun things that the arts programs are put on there. I'm an attorney actually, as my profession. I've been a municipal attorney actually for 28 years now. I worked for a Metro North community, and I now work for a Metro West community. I love my work as an attorney. I also have a private office too. And what do I bring to the board? Attorneys listen, they research, they read, they hear a position, they hear another position, they hear 5 positions on the same issue, they take a position, they argue a position. I can bring a voice to a position that's been raised to me by the citizens in the community, and that's what I do on the board. I also understand that there's, just as you've heard from our candidates for school committee, there is power in compromise. There is power in hearing what people have to say, the difference of opinions. I'm one of 11 children, big Irish family, and you can sit at a table with 11 of us and hear 11 different opinions on one issue and still come to some conclusions and compromise, and I think that's another skill that I bring to the board. We are at a time that's a difficult time, and we're at a crossroads in our community. We have budget issues, we are facing budget issues. I am in favor of an override. I've stated this at the other candidates' night. It's very important to me that we keep the level of services going, not just on the school side, but on the municipal side. We need things in both the school side and the municipal side, and we need the community's help. I would be in favor, but it is up to the town to implement the override at the town meeting. And I would take a position in favor of that because I think there's a direct correlation to the value of our homes and the value of our school system. And I also think there's a need for us. We just simply haven't grown revenue to keep up the pace of all the expenses in the town. We've been studying this on the select board. There have been presentations about this. There have been itemizations of what we need, what we'd like to do. There's some things in there that still have to be determined. I would say that some of the things are asks versus needs for us. And so I think we still need to delve a little bit more in more detail on that. But I do appreciate the work that has been done by the several volunteers on other boards and commissions in the city before it even gets to the select board. I think that's the important thing, that we're all a group of volunteers, and in the end, we all want the same thing. We want a better place to live, to work, to play, to stay, to eat. We want a better place. Everybody, everyone that's here, even if we have diametrically opposed opinions, wants that for our family and our future. And I'm around, I can see that I'm about to be done. So I love to talk, I would love to get the chance to interact with you, answer questions, hear your opinion, hear your position, talk to you about the things that we've been working on. And I'd love and ask for your vote for re-election to the select board. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Okay. Now we have Steve O'Leary. I think I don't need to mention his name. He's been around a long time. So, Steve?
Thank Jeff. So my name is Steve O'Leary, obviously, and born and raised here in the town of North Reading a long time ago, and moved out of town for 3 years, south of the border by about 1 mile, to the town of Reading, and moved right back. My wife Sue and I, decided to invest in a home here and raise our family here. I've seen the town grow and change and evolve over the years, and I'm very proud to have been played a role in this evolution as we continue to evolve. So it's a product of the North Reading Public Schools. Parent here, we're Bachelor School PTO, I coach youth soccer, I coach Little League, I coach youth basketball, I taught CCD, those sorts of things also. I was your moderator at a very young age for about a dozen years, and then been on the select board for a number of years also. In addition to that, I served on the secondary school building committee, which brings you a new high school, middle school project involved for the years that took place to be built, and oversaw the weekly operations, daily operations, meeting with the contractors and the owner's project managers at the time, and the architect, to ensure that we got good bang for our buck. And as all of you know and probably recall, we ended up having to come back for more money to get this project done because there were some mistakes made on the part of our OPM and the architect, and we held them accountable, and we just settled the lawsuit just last year when Mrs. Manning Pelling, the rest of the members of the board, for $2.5 million to hold those people responsible. I served on the Hillview Commission for a dozen years, and been the liaison for close to 30 years there, involved since its inception. I mean, that is a gem where the town, the townspeople decided to invest, take by eminent domain, and that is giving you Ipswich Road Park. That is giving you the turf field at the high school with 0 tax dollars spent. It was an innovative idea, one that I was happy to be a part of, and the board when we signed the eminent domain taking, and again on the Hillview Commission when we made the investments. Secondary school. So anyway, a whole bunch of other things that we've been involved with that I think mostly people would appreciate and are aware that just been heavily involved. I can't stress enough the amount of time and effort that needs to be put in by people who are willing to volunteer and serve. We're all taxpayers and we all have a vested interest here in seeing this town evolve appropriately and maintain our small town flavor, but at the same time, we have a responsibility to make sure that we can deliver the services. We're faced with a lot of questions and a lot of projects that need to be addressed going forward, and we're going to ask you to do something. That's to step up and pay a little bit more. We put in hundreds and hundreds of hours here, these volunteers, and the select board doesn't make the final decision. The town meeting does, and the voters at the ballot box do. So our job is to inform you, give you the best information so you can make an educated and informed decision, and that's what we'll do. I haven't always been on the prevailing side of issues, but I've never truly been disappointed with the outcome. No matter what town meeting decides, and what the voters decide to give us to operate, we'll make it work. We work together, we work collaboratively with the school committee, with the planning commission, with the finance committee and everybody else. So I look forward to the opportunity to continue to serve. I appreciate the past support that you've always shown me. I hope that if there's nothing else, I just hope that you people understand, all I bring to the table here is my good name and reputation, trust, and responsibility to inform you, and that's exactly what I try and do year in and year out. So I appreciate your opportunity to continue to serve you.
And lastly, we have Nick Massey running for Select Board. Welcome.
How you doing, folks? Getting my things together here. I apologize. Thank you all for so much for coming tonight. It is great to see such a big crowd on a game-clinching day for the Bruins too. So I appreciate you coming. My name is Nick Massey. I'm running for North Reading Select Board. You probably see the young face and say, what can he bring at the highest position of North Reading? Well, that's what I'm here to do and tell you today. My occupation is an owner's project manager. We manage public school construction projects. We look after the best interests of the owner at every avenue and taxpayer dollars at every avenue. I am on site every single day at Northeast Metro Tech. I've been at Somerville High School. I've been at Saugus Master Plan. I've been at Mass Ioneer, and I've been currently at Hamilton Wenham Elementary School. We provide consulting oversight of construction. We manage and negotiate all contracts on behalf of the owner. We ensure quality. Our goal is to decrease the schedule and to decrease costs. That is our goal. Why I'm running? I'm running for a position, not against anyone. I certainly don't know Catherine or Steve personally. Come to know them, I think they're great people. I pulled papers from my construction experience. I understand this town is, just as Kate said it, she nailed it. We're at a crossroads. We're at a crossroads with two things. We're at a crossroads with one, finance, and two, a lot of capital improvement planning coming up. This 2.5 prop override is not the last time that they will ask you for money. They're going to ask you for money again very shortly, because we have so many capital improvement projects, whether it's failing bridges, whether it's buildings that are broken down. I got here fire stations, bridges, sewers, town hall, Damon Tavern, Hood School trailers, senior center, second floor, all these things that I am walking in the buildings myself, meeting with the fire chief, meeting with the senior center, and I want to see what the buildings are like myself. North Reading, again, is in a very difficult financial position. Like I said, they're going for an operational override. It is an unfortunate circumstance. I, am not for that. I'm certainly a fiscally conservative person, and I like to put more money back into people's pockets. I'm sure we all want more money back in our pockets. It's an unfortunate circumstance. We certainly hired department heads to stay within a budget that we assigned, and it's unfortunate when those budgets go over. Couple things. Town has a couple issues. One, it's revenue. We're in real deep need of revenue. We need to actively engage with businesses. We need to go out and knock on doors and have meetings with businesses to be able to bring them in, tell them what we can offer, tell them the great people that are here in North Reading. One of the, sorry to go off topic here. I've certainly met thousands of people in this home. I've gone door knocking everywhere, and one thing I can say is I admire this town so much. I moved here 5 years ago. I'm not certainly one of the 50 years or the 30, 20 years people, but what I can certainly tell you is that these people moved here for a reason, for its small town feel. They love it here, and they're staying here for a reason. So I'm here running for select board to help keep that small town feel and to keep the residents of North Reading here to where they want to be. I thank you very much for your time, and I ask kindly for your vote on May 7th for select board.
Okay, so, what time do you have? 8:45, I think, so we're doing okay here. So we're up to the Q&A period. The Q&A period will go from now until 9:30. At 9:30, we'll have closing remarks by the candidates. So if anybody has any questions, I'm going to come around here with the microphone. If anybody has any questions for any candidates in specific, feel free to ask. I want to give them the proper amount of time to express themselves, but I don't want them to bloviate either, because we have to be fair to one another so everyone gets a chance to speak, okay? If a candidate has a rebuttal, we'll accept the rebuttal, but we don't want to get out of control, okay? So, does anybody have a question? And state your name and...
Fred Vieta, 8 Cedar Street. So my question's for the select board. If we need money and we're desperate, why did we vote no for a dispensary, a medical marijuana dispensary? It looks like a lot of the other towns are benefiting from that. It's putting money back into the school districts or their parks. Why did we vote no for that when we have Concord Street where they could put one down there and it wouldn't be in the middle of town? Either one can answer.
I think you might be meaning the vote on retail establishments, and that vote went to the town, and the town was a no community on that. So, right, the town voted no to allow those establishments in the town. I can understand the point, although in the community that I am, it's a yes community. A lot of the marijuana establishments are actually leaving. The regulations have just changed, so there's no mitigation payment that's attended to that. It's just like a regular, let's say, liquor license establishment. There are taxes that come to the community from cannabis currently, but there are some that are moving out because they perceive Massachusetts as non-cannabis friendly, actually. So we've lost some of the licensees in the community that I work in. But it's because the town voted no in the election, so we're a no community.
Does that stick forever? Or does that come back up for a vote?
It probably could on a ballot, another ballot vote. I don't think it sticks forever. I think it could be put to the voters again. So I don't know if you want to add or.
As Mrs. Minipelli pointed out, the community took a position in relation to the retail establishments. We still had the opportunity to have medical marijuana in the community, and I was very intimately involved in the negotiations with one of the applicants who had a location on Concord Street, who was going to pay the town approximately $300,000 a year to operate there. But when the final decision was made, I was in the minority as far as allowing it to happen, but the applicant at the time also had some questionable background issues, which led the majority of the board to say thank you, but no thank you. But as far as the retail aspect of it, Mrs. Minipelli did a fantastic job of explaining why it's not an opportunity for us right now. I don't think it's precluded ever, but the rules have significantly changed in relation to what communities can do for host community agreements. Before, if we got in earlier, yes, there would have been a significant amount of economic impact, which would have been positive. But those rules have changed substantially, and the home community pacts that are going to be signed going forward are going to be much weaker and not less. They're going to be a lot less lucrative.
Anyone else? State your name.
Don Miller, 6 Ashwood Drive. I'm directing this to the select board. I've been involved 55 years in a professional life dealing with government contracts. And it seems like government contracts, they always start out, where were you, last year, and how much more do you want? What is your opinion on going to zero-based budgeting for this town? I realize there are labor contracts that are in effect, but instead of just, keeping adding on, let's go to zero-based budgeting.
Does anybody have a response to his question?
In essence, the zero-based budgeting is a concept that which is okay, but we look at each and every department annually as to its mission, the purpose that it serves, and the costs associated with delivering those services. And if you look on the municipal side, each and every one of our departments are very small. Aside from police, fire, and DPW, the rest of them are 1-2 person operations. 80% of what we spend is on salaries in our community. That includes on the school department side. So when you go to zero-based budgeting, what you're talking about is what services do you want and how do you want them delivered? And we look at that every single year, right down to the postage that they spend and what organizations the employees belong to and how many memberships are. So in essence, we do that on a case-by-case basis. So it's a little bit more difficult than just running a business and say, okay, how are we gonna do this? So we do that on an annual basis. You know, if where we're at right now in relation to the override request, we're looking to deliver the current level of services that we provide to the town, both on the municipal side and the school department side. And our resources and revenues have outstripped our ability to deliver those services. So if you're not in favor of those services, what services do you not wish to have anymore? Because we're talking about cutting people, and we're talking about cutting services. We have to prioritize those. So what you'll see for a budget presentation in June, at the June town meeting, is a level services balanced budget. And then you're gonna see what the override will give you. So it's easy to say, you know, we should be spending more money in people's pocket, but what services are you willing to sacrifice moving forward? Because that's the situation we're in right now. And we'll give you the information as to what your choices are going to be and the consequences of the vote we take. But I appreciate the question.
Thank you, Steve. And by the way, even though it's a question for the select board, if it overflows into your budget and your questions, you know, that might be able to also complement or address an issue to them that affects you as well. Feel free to answer if you'd like. Sorry.
Sir, I'm actually not in favor of a zero services budget because we are growing as a community. We need to provide services. We need to provide education. We need to provide public safety services. We need to fix roads. We need to do things to make it a better community. But like Mr. O'Leary said, for level services, that's what we've actually had to do and have asked to be done for each of the departments. There's what we might call a wish list of things. What do you think would make your services and operations better? What capital planning projects might be necessary for the community? We just can't afford those with the revenue that's coming in. I'm more in favor of trying to generate some new growth, new business development, new opportunities for growth that will bring more revenue into the community. Like was said, just suggested some different type of business ideas, partnering with developers, partnering with business community to bring in new business.
Thanks, Kate. Yeah. Good question, Don. I'm gonna be very frank with you. I don't know what zero-based budgeting is. I could have faked it and Googled the definition right there, but I didn't think that was the right thing to do because something I'm all about is transparency. If I don't know it, I'm gonna tell you, and I'm certainly gonna do my homework to find out all that information so I can educationally tell you a point. That's part of the reason, kind of why, after I pulled my papers, I found out this town was in a financial crisis and said, this might be the best time for me to jump in for select board. This town might need me to jump in for select board because I'm on the same page as you. You just can't keep leading the single family residence.
Anyone else? Please state your name and your address.
Thank you. Sarah McGoldrick, I'm at 4 John Bickford Way. First, I want to thank you all for volunteering your time and your energy. It's a huge task that you all are willing to undertake. And I, for one, as a person in this community who benefits from that, appreciate it. So thank you all. My question is for the school committee. I thought all of your opening statements were great, and I think we're very fortunate to have 3 unique candidates who each brings a different set of skills and a different background and a different perspective. And I'd like to hear from each of you as we try to make our decision. What's something that you bring to the school committee that's unique? Or what's the biggest strength or background skill set that would complement the members of the existing school committee, or as compared to your opponents, that we should keep in mind?
Thank you for that question. And the mic is yours.
Okay, I'll start. So thanks, it's a great question. I agree that we have myself excluded, we have some great candidates here. I think from my perspective, I think the biggest thing that I think differentiates me is just the experience I've had on the committee. We have a fairly new committee right now. Scott Buckley, who's the chairman, has been there a couple years longer than I have, but everyone else has been in the committee for shorter periods of time. I mentioned that I've been negotiating contracts. I've done 4 contracts in the last 4 years. So I bring a lot of experience, and I bring a lot of time available to spend on these topics. My passion, my interest has not waned at all in the 6 years, and it's just been tempered by that experience as well. So that's what I think.
I think what differentiates me is the years and years and years of experience I've had working with kids, right, over the last 23 years, working through the YMCA, understanding the different needs of our children and understanding the different areas where they come from. So working out of the Northampton and Worcester areas, kids ranged from very impoverished to very wealthy in both of those communities. And understanding the ranges of the children and getting to interact not only with the children, but their parents and their expectations, I think is a key thing on school committee that we're going to need moving forward. I think there are going to be considerable expectation variances across the board from all of the parents as we go through this Prop 2.5 proposition that we're talking about right now. There's a lot of opinions, and I'll be able to very quickly understand, take it all in from the community, and then try to do my best to use the experience I have, and then bringing that back to the school committee together.
Stand because I can't see Sarah. Okay, is this better? Okay. So I think what makes me different is my background in, here we go. All right. As a communications professional, as I started to say, I specialize in crisis communications. So I have to dig in, I have to analyze. Wow.
Told you it's not easy.
Yeah.
Right?
All right. I have to dig in, I have to analyze, I have to learn a lot about a client in a short amount of time. And these clients or candidates or nonprofits are coming to me at their most vulnerable, their most trying time. I try to be a stable and guiding force. But learning a lot about it and seeing the different perspectives is really important. And I did start talking about the mental health crisis and extended recess. And I know that sounds like I'm running for middle school president, like free pizza, more recess, but it really is important. And one of the things I started looking at is different communities that have something like that. I started looking at Framingham. Hello, okay. I started looking at Framingham. They have the exact same school day as us, 6 hours, 15 minutes, and they figured out how to do 35 minutes. They actually passed it before COVID, and people thought when we came back from COVID that everyone had an academic delay and they were gonna say, no, we shouldn't do this, but they doubled down. There are many other communities have done that, so I would reach out to Framingham. I think it's my ability to reach out and talk to anyone. I would reach out to an organization called Playworks in Boston that helps children find an outlet during the school day to be able to do this. The other thing I started looking at was the regulations promulgated by DESE for the 900 and 990 hours of time on learning. And those regulations were promulgated in 1995. So 30 years ago, and I don't think there was conversations about mental health or behavioral health or social emotional learning going on at all in those times. And there is an opportunity for a waiver, and the waiver actually has to come from the school committee in the town. So I do think starting new conversations, reaching out to people, digging in, and analyzing are some of my different strengths.
Thank you. Please state your name and your address.
Katie Gabriello, 13 Damon Street. And I have a question specifically for Nick Massey, running for select board. Nick, I received some of your collateral and your campaign materials in my mailbox, so thank you for your efforts in going door to door. Yep, there it is, you just held it up. And in it, I saw that you're interested in raising a family in this town, you're putting roots in this town. So I have done the same thing. I've lived in North Reading for about 10 years. I have a kindergartner, a second grader, and a fourth grader. So hearing that you're anti the Prop 2.5 override, which will enable us to keep our schools funded at the levels that they have been, makes me wonder, when you do settle down and have that family, when you have a kindergartner with 35 students in their class, how that feels to you, and if you think that that's something that you will approve or appreciate, because knowing my 5-year-old right now and knowing the kindergarten teacher that he has, that all 3 of my kids have had, that I love, and imagine her with 35 5-year-olds, it is daunting. I am nervous for her and her ability to deal with that. So I just wanted to, how we reconcile that, you know, your future thoughts for how you will live in North Reading and use North Reading services, and how you could be against an override that will enable us to provide the education we're used to for our students here in North Reading. Thank you.
Thank you. Also seems like a question that could be answered by the school committee as well.
I think they're all for it.
Thank you. Good question. Kim? Katie, sorry. Thanks, Katie. Tough question. I know you mentioned 35 students. The teachers union is 30 students that cannot exceed a classroom. As a matter of fact, Steve will tell you, he's on the building committee, or he has building committee experience. The state, the MSBA, funds your schools, or has funded your schools based upon an average of 23 or 22 students per classroom. North Reading has 18 students per classroom. So what you're telling me is we have a building that was funded and built for 22 to 23 students. We're at 18, we have a little room. I see no shakers.
MSBA is the Massachusetts School Building Authority. That is only with new schools being built. Right? As an owner's project manager, you work up with the MSBA.
Yes, ma'am. It's a tough position, and I'm certainly the minority standing up here saying no to paying more taxes. I'm a little shocked that I am the minority saying no to taxes. In my opinion, Katie, this will not stop, and I've gone to that before, right? I've went over all the capital improvement projects that we have in your schools. Schools are the reason that everyone moves here, and I agree. Everyone wants the children to succeed, everyone, and I defer to the school committee. It is a tough question. It's unfortunate. However, you do hire people to manage budgets and stay within those budgets. I understand some circumstances don't bring that. We need to do a better job of looking through every line item. Is there an excess there? Are we, let's compare, let's look at the state standard, let's compare to our neighboring towns. Are we over here? Do we need this? Or are we kind of above the standard as far as X, Y, and Z? And I know this community wants our schools to be above the standard, but we need to pick and choose. It's not all about the teachers, it's certainly other things. And now talking 2.5 prop override, and I see the way you're looking at me, I'm getting there. 2.5 prop override with this current select board has started at $2 million at 1.2 schools I see you at select board meetings that you might know. It started at $2 million and then went up to $10 million on April 10th, and then went up to $10.5 million on April 22nd. I'm wondering what the final amount's going to be. They're still trying to, maybe not, cover some other expenses within this override. I go back to every time, how much money are we going to pay and be able to stay in this town with all the big dreams and all the big hopes we have, right? All the capital improvements we have. It's unfortunate. Someone's got to make a tough decision, right? The single family residents have been given the schools money every time, and they're happy to. When does it stop? When do they say, okay, I can't buy milk. I'm not going to go buy steak, right? So that's my thoughts. Thank you for your question, Katie. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you. State your name and address.
Thank you. Paul Dinero, 402 Park Street. There was a story I read one time about a couple who had 12 children, and they were explaining, what it was like taking care of them. And the father said, each of our children had different parents. Meaning that over the years, there may have been inflation, there may have been war going on, there's different things that affected those parents. And so when they're in their building career, when you're building your more money to save for retirement, you got parents who are working hard, maybe not spending much time with them. So you get my point. So what's happening is, I really appreciate your point of view, and it's very valid, because you have young children and you want the best for them, because it's how they begin, it's how you hope they're going to end up. And so, but there are people in this community that have spent their lives here, raised their children, and the children are better off for it, but now they're on a fixed income. I mean, I retired when I was 69, and I don't make any more income now. I mean, I'm happy that I have saved money, but if the interest rates go down, I'm not making money. So, everything is different at a different period of time. So I think we all have to be cognizant of that. And the other thing is, the town administrators and select board know what the budget is. They know how much money it is. And so they know they gotta stay within it. They gotta work harder at it. That's your job.
Any question to put out, or is that just a statement? What, try harder? Okay, can you try harder to save money? That was the question.
I appreciate the try harder comment, but I just wanted, the one thing I wanted to address was the issue that Nick raised about 2 million versus 10 million. And I'm not sure, I can tell you as someone who's been on the financial planning team all year, that, I'm not sure what numbers were discussed at the select board, but, when we came up with the $10 million number, I think it's very important that people understand, we're looking at projecting the budget, the impact of this structural difficulty we have where expenses are going up, but our ability to raise the revenue is capped at 2.5% on the tax side. And we're looking 1, 2, and 3 years ahead, and you just have to realize that if the override doesn't pass this year, in the schools we're going to be cutting 12 to 15 positions. So you might say, so what, there's a lot of positions. But then the next year, it's going to be the same problem because expenses are going to be going up much faster than Prop 2.5. And so we're going to be cutting another 12 or 15 positions. And we're going to be doing it again on year 3. So that is the planning that we're looking at and looking ahead and saying, it's not just a 1-year problem. If this were a 1-year problem, we could get by. But it's a long-term structural problem. Now, let me just address the impact of the tax increases. I totally understand that many households would struggle with the increases that would be needed. But, this town has, it's been 20 years since a Prop 2.5 override has passed, and a little bit less than that since one has actually been requested. You cannot say, compared to other communities, that this town has been, willing to spend money hand over fist, because we just haven't been asking the taxpayers for the kind of overrides that other communities have. So I think we're trying to solve a structural problem. It's not going away, and services are going to go down, and schools and the ability to deliver education is going to be able to go down every year because of the structural problem.
Just a point of clarification, are you saying the 10 million override covers 3 years or just 1 year?
I'll repeat the question. So the gentleman asked if to clarify if the 10 million is covering 3 years or just 1 year. The 10 million is to cover 3 years. And just to get into the technical details, if we raise the ability to, if we increase the tax levy ability by the 10 million, this first year we're only budgeting a certain portion of that. I think it adds up to about $2 million in total, if I'm remembering the number correctly. But the next 2 years' budgets are still to be determined, but we would budget within that, the idea of slowly increasing up to that $10 million.
So is the taxes increase incrementally every year?
Correct.
Thank you.
Please state your name and your address.
Hi, I'm Deb Picciuto, 26 Lindor Road, and I have a multi-part question. First, it must be stated very clearly that we have a high degree of our income coming from residential properties, and we have a minuscule amount of income coming from industrial, commercial, and other sources. And we've heard people mention about the need to be developing relationships with businesses, but do we have embedded in the state, the community government, any personnel that goes out and tries to make those deals happen? That's question A for anyone up there who can answer. You don't have another microphone like that, but come back to me.
And Caitlin Yupelli.
I'll answer. We do have a group of volunteers, it's called an Economic Development Committee, who works on these ideas of how to generate business interest in the community. We also have a community planning commission that does master planning for the city and really has charge of these sort of initiatives to bring forward zoning changes, district changes, and things like that, for us to focus in on as a community and raise those types of suggestions. We do have members of the select board that propose and raise ideas as well, but collectively, and just to answer your question, there are committees and commissions that are volunteers like us that do that type of work. So, yes.
In the last 5 years, what has been the outcome of those committees?
I think we're contemplating some zoning changes and things like that. I also think that Economic Development Committee is looking into other aspects of planning. We're looking at a water sewer project down the main business corridors of the city that's been worked on by different committees and commissions here and personnel from the town. We do know from the consultants that we've hired to study this that there is a need for sewer to generate business interest in the community. That was the topic of many, many meetings and many public discussions and debates. It hasn't been put on the warrant yet. It's still under study. It's still taking shape. There's a wastewater committee also that internally reviews that. And I think we should be prepared if we're going to be coming either for another override because it's a massively expensive project. If we're not going to do that, we still have to plan else otherwise. We still have to think of another way to usher in business development on those major corridors, like packaged treatment plants along the corridors, identifying locations where we can have groups of businesses tying in, similar to what we're doing with the downtown sewer project, where the school had a sewer treatment plant built, and we know from the studies that we can connect that to the municipal buildings. We have to do things like this, but it all costs money. So no matter what we do, we still have to come down to the town meeting floor and ask for money to do it. Okay.
All Alrighty, so that's a great question. I think you bring up some really solid points here, and I think the crux of this whole thing kind of comes down to is taxes that we as citizens of this town are paying, and allowing us to continue to live here, to raise our families, and all at the same time maintain and improve upon the services that this community offers its citizens. It comes down to cost and revenue, ultimately speaking. And so in terms of addressing these issues, what it's really going to take is proactive cost management, but also proactive revenue sourcing. And that's a really big thing we ought to do. And the Community Planning Commission has an excellent opportunity to bring new revenues to the community. I hear a lot about this the sewer project, and just a side note on the sewer project is back to a note another candidate has said is when we ask for an override now, we're going to continue to ask for overrides, and the idea of an override was mentioned again for the sewer project. The sewer project's not going to be our end-all, be-all solution to bringing businesses to the community. What we ought to do to bring more businesses to the community is not just meet with business owners, tell them how great our town is. We need to offer financial incentives. We need to offer incentives for business owners to want to live in the community and own businesses in the community, provide opportunity for entrepreneurs to start their business here. This has everything to do with the taxes that we levy on these businesses, and also the ability to zone differently in the community. We're split up pretty much between residential and commercial areas, and there's no intermingling. This has everything to do with how we get around the community, the walkability, the bikeability, and so changing zoning also to allow for business owners to operate in other parts of our community, out of their own properties, under certain things, etc. Additionally, we need to reduce the tax burden for individuals. Accessory dwelling units, affordable dwelling units will help us do that. Accessory dwelling units, really, I can talk about that to people afterwards. And bringing some more affordable units to the town so people can stay, they're not stuck with high tax burdens. And I think, so back to your question really, is the most important thing that we can do is bring in more business, but incentivize business, and that's how we're going to tackle this. Not by continuously levying more costs to the taxpayer. It's just not going to work. If that answers,
Steve.
I think the most important part of Deb's question was, what's happened in the last 5 years? And my retort is, what's happened in the last 10 years? You know, there's only so much that we can do. The Community Planning Commission had attempted to, probably 5 or 6 years ago, from right here at this corner, Kitty's Corner, up to 62, and rezoned it to allow for denser development. So rezoned it by right to allow for denser development here, which would enhance, economic development in this brief, short corridor. Nothing's happened because the economics don't work, because we require septic systems here. So we look at Concord Street. What's happened up there? Very little, if anything. A trucking terminal was just sold for $13.9 million out there for another trucking terminal to go in there. Those trucking terminals don't even bring us excise taxes. Those are a loser. And nothing's happening out on Concord Street because you don't have sewage. Now, sewage doesn't have to mean tying into Greater Lawn Sewer. As Kate pointed out, you can have packaged treatment plants and things of that nature. But the problem is, where are you going to put the effluent? You need a place to dispose of it, just like you do a leaching field in your home. This has been looked at for years and years and years. And what it's going to take is, again, a little more on the leadership part here, current leadership and going forward, to bring to you some choices here. And the only way that it's going to happen is an investment made by the community to get it going. You can't rely on private industry to do it because there's too many small parcels here, not a big. Look what's happened right next door right across from Kitty's here, right? We've got the Heffern property. We had an opportunity to buy for about $1.5 million a few years ago, and we couldn't get enough consensus here with the town boards to do it. You now have a pool company and some garage space, and you have a brand new building being built that's going to be a sign company. What is it bringing to this town as far as revenue so that we can share the cost of operating this community if we don't make the investment? So yes, you're going to be asked to do it. But we don't decide that. We bring the choices to you as town voters and town meeting members to do it. And that's what we'll continue to do. Again, it takes time to convince people that the return on the investment is there. If you don't make the investment, there is no return.
Thank you.
I agree with Steve here. I just want to mention one point briefly that kind of ties into the crux of the whole thing, and that's that when we make these investments into these new projects, it brings a lot more burden on the community. You know, we'll see with the sewer project, I believe, will be excess development on 28, makes sense. New businesses, great. New apartments and other complexes, great. But there will ultimately still increase tax burden. We will need new fire. We will need more police, we will need more educators, we will need more school. So really we ought to consider being a little more fiscally conservative because this could be opening a can of worms. That's all I'm saying.
Well, this is exciting. Please, name and address.
Hi, Pat Fillmore, 24 Field Chris Harris. And just in rebuttal to the school, the teachers' contracts say they can have no more than 30 students. According to the DOE, the high school teacher per student is 10.1. Middle school, elementary schools, I think, are 11.5. So we don't have a problem with an abundance of kids in each classes. And I worked in the middle school for 25 plus years. So we don't have a problem. The teachers can't, classes can't go over 30. And no, it can't, it's in its contracts.
Now, right now it is.
No, it's not. I scheduled kids for years upon years in the middle school. And we had to juggle kids to keep from, kids being into a level 2. This is when we went to level 2, because there were so many kids in level 2, we had to adjust their schedules so that they wouldn't go over 30. We never went over 29 kids per student. And a teacher's contracts say no more than 30 students per class. And that's in the teacher's contracts. Well, if there's more than 30, then I'm gonna tell you right now, you're gonna have every teacher in that school department that's going to file a grievance, because there's only 30 kids per class.
I think you're saying the same thing. She's saying 30 is too many.
And I agree, but we only have 10.1.
Now, but if the override doesn't pass, we would have 30.
We're gonna have no more than,
30.
no, we're still gonna have 30.
Yeah,
We're not
no
even,
more than-
we're 1/3 of 30. We have 10.1 students according to the Department of Education. As of tonight, we only have 10.1 students per teacher. In the elementary schools, I think it's 11.2 according to the Department of Education. So, pull it up, it's on the DOE website, okay?
Yes, you may.
So, a couple things. I'm not sure what, you're correct that the contract has a limit in there that is put in there that, that the maximum class size is 30. And you're right that if we went over that, that would be a violation of the contract. None of that has to do with what we think is ideal class sizes or class sizes that work for our students, okay? I'm not sure I'm not sure exactly what that 10 per number represents, but I can tell you I'm not questioning your reporting. I'm just saying I'm not sure what it represents. I can guarantee you that there are, well, I can tell you that class sizes in the elementary grades range in the younger grades in the range of around 18 students per class, to the older elementary grades up in the lower 20s. And in high school, it gets a little more complicated. I would imagine in the classes that are more in the required courses, they're in that similar 20, low 20 range. Perhaps some of the elective courses have some lower numbers. There are, I don't want to say zero. The idea that there might be a large number of classes that have 10 or students in them only is just not reality. So.
And I'm saying the average class size, but you could go 2 or 3 more, but it's still not anywhere near the 30.
The average class size is not 10. Let's be clear. But that's not what that figure is saying. So it may, and I'm not sure what it is, but it can't be just the class size. It could be a personnel to number of students
It's a ratio.
Right, but it's not a class size.
This is for Steve and Catherine. So we need money, the town. Why do we have $200,000 to a lawyer to fight Nicky Yubba about building his apartment complexes when you guys want to be builder friendly?
The money that was appropriated to fight the 40B project with the Old Thompson Country Club was appropriated by town meeting and started with a group of neighborhood people down at the lower end of Elm Street that felt that the project that was being proposed was excessive. We also have qualified for safe harbor to stop that project. That was appealed to the state and we lost. The rules have also changed midstream also. So when it comes to what's going to go there, you're going to see a project built there at some point. I, for one, as a member of the board, I proposed the first $50,000 to come up because what was happening was that local residents were coming up with $30,000 of their own money to fight a project that was going to North Reading that was going to have a significant adverse impact on that neighborhood and our community. I didn't think that was fair. I think that the town should take a position if there was something that was viable and defensible, not just wasting taxpayers' money on.
But we need money.
It should not. No, that isn't necessarily a net positive with that type of development. But that being said, the money was appropriated. First $50,000 was appropriated at town meeting. Town meeting voted it and has carried forward with it. There's still a significant amount of money left in that fund that hopefully won't have to be expended. But the thing is, that project is excessive in relation to that particular area of town and the impact on the community. We fought it, we just continue to fight it, but the decisions have been made, it's been remanded back to the town, the Board of Appeals has to make a decision on a project going forward there. So there's still a significant amount of money left that hasn't been expended yet.
Then why did we give Pool Day the option to build an extra level on all the remaining buildings down there? So they paid $20 million
They paid $30 million for the land.
$30 million for the land. They came back and said that it cost them $20 million to clean the property, and we're letting them build 5 stories now instead of 4. So that'll allow Nicky Yubba to fight for 5 stories down there as well, right?
No. No. So what happened with the Pulte property there, that was, again, I was on a
It's like
negotiating.
giving them the land for free,
Who, Pulte?
pretty much.
No.
With the extra buildings that they're building,
No.
$700,000
No.
per apartment.
Okay, now, what happened with the Pulte project over there is that was the old J.T. Berry Center, which is a sanitarium, state-owned property. And finally, after 25 years, the Patrick administration finally got the idea, which was plant seeds like communities like North Reading, saying, why don't you let the communities go out there and market these things and get some projects in here that we would like to see and developed here, rather than having the state being overwhelmed with all the state property. Pulte came in and offered us 2 proposals. One with, all with 450 units over there, and paying either $30 million or $18 million. And we were willing to pay $18 million if we had an affordable aspect to it. I, for one, was in favor if we're gonna have the project over there, which would raise some revenue. Over 55 project with an affordability aspect. The majority of the people decided We wanted the $30 million, of which we gleaned $20 million out of that project. Town of North Reading, $20 million. In addition to that, we now have 450 units that are all over 55. Very few, if any, school children into the school system. So that's a net gain. That project over there bailed this town out for the last 6 or 7 years. The revenue from fee income and tax revenue. That's coming to an end. The last building's gonna be built this year. The next year and a half. They came back and said, listen, it cost us an additional, I don't know, I think it was $7 million to clean up the project. And what they were looking for was a concession on the part of the town, and they went to the zoning board of appeals, which is where they had to go. It wasn't the select board, the zoning board of appeals, saying, can you help us out? Give us an additional 50 units. I went before the zoning board of appeals, said, if you want the extra 50 units, there has to be an affordability aspect to it, and we want some of those units to be affordable now. They pushed back and said, well, we were strict, we didn't have the opportunity. That's not true. This board, Mr. Minipelli, Mr. Studo, Mr. Gonzalez, we gave them an extra 4 months, I think it was, or 6 months on a contract to go out there and do their own study. We did a study as far as environmental impact. They were given additional months to do it again, and their guys didn't show it. So we owed them nothing. So the Board of Appeals saw fit to give them 50 units. 15% of them are going to be affordable. And again, it's been a win for the community as far as revenue source wise.
Don't you think you're seeing similar revenue from the?
That's not what's being proposed by you.
So there are a lot of people with a lot of questions. It's already past 9:30, so I'm only gonna take one more question. And from what I understand, this young lady has a big question.
I'm a junior at North Reading High School, and in my past field hockey season, we didn't have an athletic trainer. So multiple members of my team got injured, including myself. And when I got injured, mom had to help me while I was rushed to the hospital in an ambulance. And we didn't have someone there that, had the right equipment. And I was just wondering if there would be any changes to the budget to account for safety, and if I should expect a trainer for next year's season.
I've been told by Debbie that we can go a little bit longer. I know everybody wants to leave, but I see so many hands going up, so sorry about this, but I'm gonna let them ask you questions.
So thanks for the question, and I hope you've recovered from the injury. It's not a budgetary issue, it's an ability to hire or find the right people issue. For a few years, we had a great contract with a local firm that provided some of those services, and it's always our goal to have the appropriate personnel, and certainly we will always have the personnel that's required by law, but we always try to have trainers on hand. The money is there for that. It's just a question of finding and being able to hire in a very competitive marketplace for that type of work. So, it's something I know the administration is very concerned with. We've talked about it in our meetings, and it continues. We continue to struggle with it, but it's not a budgetary issue. Just so you know.
Sorry, I'm going to stand up so I can see you. I can't see behind the podium. So it's a great question. So we run into this with all of our sports in town, not just in the high school athletic realm, right? So coaching on the field, most of these towns, you take hours and hours of training, and then they give you a little red bag, and they say, here you go take your kids out to the field, and there are no professionals. We're dealing with concussions, potential broken legs, all types of things. I think this is one area where I can help. Where we have the same problem across all of our sports in town. This might be an area where the schools can collaborate with youth basketball, youth hockey, youth soccer, go around the world and try to find one unified way so we can put professionals not only on our high school fields, but also McGuire Field on Saturday mornings, so we have 500 kids running around there, and the baseball fields on Sunday morning. If we collaborate and pool our resources together, we might be able to make a little inroads there. And I think that's one area where if we each look at the problem independently, we might not be able to solve it, but if we collaborate together as a town, that's one area where I, in my experience, we can collaborate and bring that together to try to solve the problem.
I think Tim's right. I think collaborating would be, okay, so I'm not an expert in sound systems apparently. It's unfortunate, I played field hockey in high school, and it's unfortunate that you had a serious injury.
If you want to just come around.
It's unfortunate that you had a serious injury, and there also needs to be parity amongst the women's and men's sports. I know that the youth football program, the younger kids have athletic trainers on their field when someone gets hurt. So I'm not sure what, each sport is decided on where athletic trainers are, but I think working amongst all the different sports, both men's and women's in town, would be beneficial.
Hi, Lisa Mackey, Adams Street in North Reading. I just had a question, I guess, for the school committee. My first question is, what percentage of the budget actually does the school committee actually take? Because I think that the school is important for all the kids here in town. And secondly, I guess you said that if the 2.5 doesn't go through, you'd probably have to come back again, so that you obviously need the funds going forward. And I guess my question is that if the Prop 2.5 goes forward and you receive the funds, is that going to become the new normal? And I guess this would also go to the select board, or do we anticipate that that's just for 3 years and then that's going away? So the first question is the percentage of the budget for the school committee, and if you think you're going to need those funds later on.
That was for the school committee, right? I think the question was, you're gonna have to ask for another override right after that, after 3 years. I think that's what she was going at. Is that fair?
Yeah, and the percentage of the budget.
Percentage of the budget.
So on the first part, the percentage of the budget, I assume you mean the school committee, the school's percentage of the total town budget? So in general, it's about 2/3, 1/3. So 2/3 of the budget, of the total municipal expenditures go to the schools, and about 1/3 go to the town. That number is worked out that is sort of generally the target number that's been worked out by the financial planning team, which is a group consisting of the chair and vice chair of the select board, the chair and vice chair of the school committee, and also the town administrator, finance director, superintendent, and the assistant superintendent for operations and finance, where we sort of, over the course of a year, work out start talking about the budget for the next year and work out some of those details. But generally, that's the target. It's like 2/3, 1/3. The second part about whether we'll be coming back year after year. So, as I mentioned before, we've projected ahead 3 years, and I don't think we can accurately project any farther than that. We may not be accurate in what we projected even for those 3 years. But I do know we've just come through a period of some really extreme, at least in recent history, extreme inflation. We've all felt it, and it's impacted the expenses at the town and the school side as well. And so I think the idea, our goal is to get through is to sort of recover from that bout of inflation, and if in 3 years from now inflation has eased off a little bit, then we'll be in a better spot. But I mean, we can't project that far ahead. That's I think that's what our general philosophy.
I think the question was, does the 2.5 continue on forever? And it does. You and other people are always saying that, 3 years it's going to end. It doesn't end. The only thing that ends is the
That's fine. We'll address that.
No, I think
What's the chestnut?
well, there's a caveat.
Just to follow up on what Rich was saying too, I think one of the challenges that we have is because 83, I believe, % of the school budget are salaries, because of the limits that we have, the Prop 2.5 override, the salaries and FTEs are really what we're talking about being impacted over the course of these next 3 years. And we know that the income that the town can raise is about 2.5% per year. And most salaries and most people in this room are unhappy when you don't get a raise of at least 2.5% per year. So we know there's going to be those fighting odds going from year to year. The important thing from my perspective is to balance how we address it. Whether a Prop 2.5 override passes or if it's defeated, we as a school committee have to be capable of understanding how that impacts our teachers, how we need to understand what specific positions we can and can't remove and why. And it's not just as easy as saying, well, we're going to remove this type of professional or that type of professional because of the drastic needs of what our children need. Right, so we're gonna have to really go in and with a hard look, and I do give credit to the school committee thus far this year, has done a very hard look at where we can go across the board for the positions. And to Rich's point, this would continue in the future years, and it'll be a very difficult decision. It's one of the main reasons that I'm running, is understanding that this is potentially a cascading problem, and it's one that I think I can help with.
I have not been involved in the budget process at all. I commend Rich for the many, many hours and all the work he's done for this, but that is a question that I don't know the answer to. I don't know if the school committee will come back in 3 years and ask for another override, and that's part of the reason why I'm running. I want to understand this more. I want to see what's being prioritized. In my opinion right now, I don't, as I had said previously, we all need to cut corners somewhere. I don't think cutting teachers and classroom-facing professionals are what we should be doing right now for the continued success of our town.
So just a quick note on that, to your point, please correct me if I'm wrong, select board folks. The projected revenue of the town, it's not growing, okay? And that means that with inflation, needing to meet these continued raises for these professionals, I mean, you can put 2 and 2 together. But the revenue of the town's not growing, it's actually decreasing over the 5-year period, so that should answer that point.
So, I'm gonna allow just 2 more questions. I'm sorry?
You need the select board.
Okay. That's okay, I didn't see the hands up, that's all.
Thank you. First of all, to answer your question directly, it's 2/3, 1/3, which give or take a few basis points. But as far as the override goes and what it means, yes, that is the new baseline and gets carried forward. This override is above and beyond the current levy limit and gets carried forward forever and a day. What we have, just to let you know.
I waited a year to have.
Well, excuse me. By the way, it has been said over and over again, just some people don't hear what some other people say. We have been very transparent as far as what this means, and what it means is, going forward, if it's $10 million, if that's what it is, it's added to the levy limit and gets carried forward for the forever and a day. That's your new baseline as far as the 10 million. Now, how do we project new growth, and how do we fund the new growth that's necessary to carry the level services forward or any new initiatives that are going to take place? That comes with the regular tax revenue to carry forward. Now, this $10 million that's being proposed is not going to be spent all in 1 year. It's going to be spent over a 3-year time period. For the municipal side of things, we could get by. We're $500,000 short this year. You know, can we squeeze by and continue to deliver some services? Yes, okay, we can make a committee. The school committee can. The school department cannot get by without significant cuts. You're talking 12 to 15 positions, you're talking about teachers, you're talking about adjustment counselors, you're talking about some very vital positions here. It can't be done. So what happens is every year the select board sets your tax rate up and the levy limit. If we don't need to spend up to that $10 million, the select board doesn't have to levy to that limit. We will have authorization to do so, and we will look at somewhat zero-based budgeting every year to see what our priorities are going to be and how we're going to spend in what areas. So we're going to be raising it incrementally. Your tax bill is going to go up incrementally, but that $10 million gets carried forward for the levy limit forever and a day. All right? Now, 3 years from now, 4 years, in year 4, what happens? To Rich's point, It depends. Inflation is huge. The contracts that we're settling right now are in excess of 2.5% in order to retain good qualified people in our school system and in our town, in the general municipal government. So what are the contracts again? These are 80% of your budget is salaries. So what we settle moving forward within the confines of 2.5 and new growth will determine whether or not we have to ask for another override. We don't anticipate the need for market adjustments in salaries 3-4 years from now that we do need now in order to retain these people. So I don't know what year 4 or year 5 is going to bring, other than stress, because we don't have the new growth to support the level services. But the stress shouldn't be as great as it is today. It is significant. So yes, directly answering you, transparently, that 10 million gets carried forward forever and a day as a levy limit that the board has the ability to levy up to, and town meeting has the ability to spend to. But we can't do it alone, because the select board doesn't do it. It's town meeting and a ballot box.
Piggyback on that too. I don't think that laying off teachers is the end-all be-all answer either. And I also think, just like water, sewer, things like that, over the next course of time, whoever does get elected to these positions, community planning positions, school department, select board, whoever is serving as a volunteer economic development committee, which they already are focused on initiatives, focused on strategic planning. I don't think any one answer is the end-all be-all, but we certainly all have to roll up our sleeves and figure it out together. And that's the only way it's gonna get done, because if we're not having a cohesive plan brought to the town meeting floor, no one is going to vote for it. So from the start, I don't think the answer is getting rid of athletic coaches and public safety coaches and athletic safety people to help students, getting rid of teachers. There are a lot of unseen expenses that the school has. They take care of a lot of children on plans, educational plans. The 10-to-1 might have to do with, I don't know if that figure comes from either, but that might certainly have to do with one-on-ones or professionals that are with students. These are required to be provided. The citation that Nick made to the MSBA, we don't build a building to serve the number of students that exist now. We know the trajectory of the town is going to be increase in population. Just look at the census. We know that that's going to happen. So we all have to take a part in generating new opportunities, generating new business, partnering with businesses. The one or two things we have to offer is an amazing school system and a single tax rate right now. That's what we have to offer businesses. But if we don't bring in the rest of amenities, we're not going to get anyone to look at us. That's it. And some people, it's an identity issue. Some people want the town to stay this way. They would rather have it be a community. It's a beautiful community full of residences and a good school system. And that's a question on the town meeting floor. That's gonna have to be decided by this vote. And if, one more thing, just like Mr. O'Leary said, that there'll be two budgets, because the level services budget, which is what I interpreted your zero-sum budget to be, the level services budget is going to be on the warrant, and then the override budget. And that will not get passed unless it gets passed to the ballot. So we have to have an operating budget that would be the level services budget in place in order to move forward. And what is likely to, it has to have two yeses at the town meeting floor as well as at a ballot. So if people are in favor of the override, it's important to not just vote for it at the town meeting, but to vote for it at the ballot.
Thank you for that. Okay, last question, because it's getting late, and I'm going to give this to you. You have not asked a question yet, correct? Okay.
Ralph Smart, Park Street. This is a multi-question for both boards. I don't mess with the teachers. They're the heart of this community. My daughter's there. They do a wonderful job. It is what it is. What Kate just said as far as the two boards needing to work side by side with other boards also. Mr. Leary stated earlier that they try to look line item after line item after line item. I think there's been board members that are running right now. I think Mrs. Minipelli's 10, 12 years on the board. Correct, Kate? 9 years. Mr. O'Leary? Over 30. Thank you for your service. We talked about the issues that the town has as far as this has been building and building and building. And we're looking at line items. Kate, it was fantastic what you just said as far as how we have to look across everything. Yeah, okay, so we have a couple of things here. We're trying to figure out where we're going to save money, not just necessarily ask for an increase. We're looking at line items here. Teacher salaries, $92,500 on average, which is great. We're looking at, I think the school committee just presented 6% increase for paras and or 16% over the course of the next 3 years for paras and teachers. I'm not arguing, I'm not trying to fight any of you ladies with this one. But in this budgetary situation we have here, maybe that's something that gets looked at. We also have a superintendent that has an assistant. We have an assistant to the superintendent. We also have an assistant superintendent. We have an assistant to a finance for the school committee. Where are these line items not being followed or looked at to say maybe we can cut upper services, not the school services for the kids, but let's trim the fat here. That's really where it comes down to. And I want to know how our existing select board members are going to stop it.
Okay, who wants to answer that question? Okay.
All right, so that was a good one. So I think there's a lot of undertones I think that you brought in there, right? So one of the things that the school committee really does look at is salaries, right? And you brought up salaries, right? It's imperative that in this bedroom community that we do have, that we maintain teachers and teacher salaries such that we're competitive, right? We don't want to lose our best teachers, which is primarily our best asset here in town, due to salaries, right? When we look across the board, how do we know that we're paying fair market share? Well, what we know is between the municipal side and the school side, it's about 80% of the budget, right? So the salaries are fairly in line with what you would expect across town, because you can tell and you can kind of test that because they're the same, right? On the municipal side, school side, 80% of all of our entire budget is just based on salaries. So then you ask, well, where can we trim that? Well, I think the reality of where we are, and we talk about a very big problem that we have, is at the first budget meeting that we had, the first thing we talked about cutting was the after-school bus, which was $15,000, right? So we're now at the point where, in order to find these little areas where we're trying to cut, we are looking at oh no, by the way, I did the math when I was sitting in the meeting. That's 0.0001% of the school budget. So really what we have to do when you're talking about trimming, I'm not exactly sure where that lives with the budget growth that we have, which really means we're going to have to, without a 2.5 override, look across the board and make impactful cuts across the board. And I think what we are going to see is it'll be across teachers, it'll be across specialists, it'll be across special education, it'll be across services, athletics, and that's just an unfortunate reality of where the budgets are.
Administration.
And also administration, yeah, but that's just where we are, right? So we have to look across the board, and I think it's going to be a very challenging problem that we're going to have to solve over the next 3 years.
It has to be addressed.
100%.
Challenges are opportunities.
And I just want to address the administration side of it. So you mentioned the assistant to the superintendent. That job was not filled as a way to help balance the budget. But more generally, our administrative expenses are about 3% of the total budget, the salaries at the district level. And it is The state average for that figure is just under 4%. So it's not like we're spending at a much higher rate than other districts
Do
around.
we have 2 assistant superintendents?
We have 2 people who are in positions that are called assistant superintendents, yes.
Do we have an operations and finance person?
The assistant superintendent for finance and
That's
operations.
the third one right now.
No, that is one position.
And we also have a curriculum director?
We have an assistant superintendent for learning, forget his exact title, but who
They're all over 6 figures.
and there are various curriculum positions as well, but those are not positions that have no value.
But again, we're not talking about a value here, we're talking about, unfortunately, we're in a bad situation right now, budget crisis, and we certainly don't want to impact the level of teachers. We have no problem with that, but we have to start somewhere. You eat an elephant one bite at a time. This gentleman to you right there said, it doesn't make that big of a difference because it's only 0.001. 0.001 is better than nothing.
So
look at the salaries of that. How much would that save if you can save on those 3 salaries?
Well,
$400,000.
$400,000, is that?
But I think you'd see the problem is you. So let me just say, I appreciate what you're saying. It seems like anytime you have a position that's an administrative or district level position, it feels like it's not providing value. I can assure you that's not the case. In many cases, it just, the overall quality of education would suffer if we didn't have those 2 positions. I mean, you just can't.
That's not the end all be all for you to have these additional positions. Mr. O'Leary said that we have $500,000 in the hole. If those positions are eliminated or moved around, there's $400 out of your $500,000 shortfall.
Okay. The select board would like to address this as well.
I think one of the important things to understand is that the appropriating process, how we appropriate money and vote at it at town meeting, it's different from your municipal side than it is for the school department side. When the budget is presented to you, it's pretty much on the municipal side, department by department by department by department. By state law, the school department budget is a bottom line budget. How it gets allocated and spent during the course of the year is at the discretion of the superintendent of school and the school committee. But what's important to understand is that the 5 members of the school committee, the 5 members of the select board, the 9 members of the finance committee are all resident taxpayers and voters too. And we do scrutinize it. When I say line item by line item, we have the finance planning team, again, chair and vice chair, both of the select board, school committee, finance committee, and then the administrative support staff to help us do it. And I was on the board that created that thing because we are that finance planning team, because prior to that, many of you will remember, we used to battle it out on town meeting floor and didn't have a unified budget to present to the town meeting and the voters to vote on. The school committee would fight for their part, the general government, the select board would fight for their part, and we'd battle it out on town meeting floor and nobody would get anything done and it would be a terrible mess. We created the finance planning team where we do scrutinize the school department budget, and they have to justify it to the finance committee and the board of selectmen so that when they come out unified, there's a justification for what's being presented at town meeting. But just from an appropriation standpoint, it's important for you to recognize you're basically voting on department by department on the municipal side, and it's a bottom line budget on the school department side. So the scrutiny is taking place. There are positions that have been appropriated for, and the money has not been spent because of the cash crunch we're in right now.
Did you know as a select board member that there's 2...
Through the moderator.
Okay, I can't allow it to anymore because we're out of time.
$10.
And I just, because I think.
Mr. Samard, as I was listening, I was writing down, because I think you were asking specifically what we are doing, and you were focusing in on our years of volunteering. And I think some of the things that I think we need to be open to as a board are some of the things that we've done in the past, or at least on the time frame that I've been on the board, which for health insurance, for example, the participating funding arrangements. It's a totally unique thing. We're one of the only communities that has it. It's been a way that we've been able to cut and manage the rising cost of health insurance for our employees. It's an annual cost that we have to account for. We have the committee for the insurance committee of town workers working with us. We work side by side to be able to manage that. That was a new thing that was proposed to the board, new idea, new concept. And I think that is one of the ways that we've been able to manage this up until this point. I think another thing that we can do is look into shared services, not just shared services amongst municipal and school, but also amongst other communities. So, for example, the regional dispatch, we just signed that agreement. And we have other shared services, the housing authority director. It is hard to recruit and retain talent at not just livable wages, but at to compensate for quality. And I think some of the positions that are open maybe just don't get the draw, and in other communities they don't either, but if we had one person that we could use for shared services, that's a way for us to keep the budgetary costs down, but also provide the services that are necessary. So I think just in terms of some of the things that we can do, and then we also do pick it apart. We pick it apart line by line. I think we need to continue to do that. I do think we need a grant writer. I absolutely think we need someone that's soliciting funds to be able to provide services. And some of the things that we have done is put people into positions that are doing that work for us now to be able to expand services, particularly the human services divisions. So I understand what you're saying. We want to make sure that we're not adding all these extra positions. And I think some of the things in the public meetings on the school budget and their 3 separate budgets, there are things I could pick apart that I don't think are appropriate. I use kindergarten, and I know this is unpopular, but free kindergarten I think is something that's a wish list item. It's $400,000 when we're putting down town meeting floor a request for an override. That's a wish list. I understand why the superintendent wants that, but I think we have the ability to look at that. We have the ability to voice our opinion on it. Like Mr. O'Leary said, once it's split by statute, that's governed by the school committee. But we can voice our opinion and voice our thoughts on it and voice the thoughts of the people in the community as well, which is our job too.
Okay, I want to thank all of you. We're going to, not 3 minutes, but you can have 2 minutes closing comments, okay? So, because it's really late and they've been generous with their time for being here. So why don't we, last time we went this way, I think. So let's go from that side. I'm sorry? You start. And you can do it from your position here.
Have a great night, everyone. And as I told you, I have no opinion because I'm Switzerland. But boy, did I want to jump up and say a few things. I did miss 2 important points. In addition to presiding over town meeting, I have 2 other functions. One function is to appoint the finance committee, and the second function is for the Memorial Day parade. I must be on the common to judge the kids' bike contest. So I'll be there this year. Thank you. My turn. So, time all the way down, finally. So, as I said earlier, I've been involved for a long period of time, and I would like to continue to be of service to the community. I think I bring some value to the board as far as my breadth of knowledge and understanding of municipal government, state government. I have a significant amount of contacts within the region as far as other area elected officials, state officials, federal officials that I've taken advantage of and capitalized over the years to the advantage of the town. And I think that's an important thing to bring to the board. I think as we establish our goals and objectives, I have a pretty good pulse in the community. Part of my life at this point, is that I still have a small tax business. I do hundreds of people's taxes here in this town. I understand and I know what people can afford, what they can't afford. I understand and I know what people are feeling. I understand what happens in the community. My wife Sue and I was here. We have lived through, the cost of raising children, childcare costs, when it comes to educational costs, when it comes to college educations, when it comes to unforeseen expenses of the household, when it comes to taking care of elderly parents and the costs associated with home care needs. Those types of things are what I bring to the table, what I bring to every single meeting and every single deliberation, every single week of the year to the board. It doesn't go unnoticed. I get it, I understand, and I understand the concerns that everybody's here as far as, cutting the budget and doing what we can. So I bring that to the board, I'll continue to bring that to the board. I hear the community, I know the community, I love this community and have invested a significant amount of time, effort, energy. I do my homework. I think over the years what I've tried to do is, if nothing more, is to engender some support from the community, which has been very generous as far as being honest with you, being straightforward, and then asking for your support. I appreciate it very much.
I just want to thank everyone again for coming out here tonight. It's the bad spot. Okay. Again, I just want to thank everyone for coming out here. Everyone standing here today, sitting here today, is opting to volunteer. We all want to help the town of North Reading. We all love the town of North Reading. I don't think you heard that from, you didn't hear that enthusiasm, you did not hear that enthusiasm from everyone, right? My goal, you haven't picked up yet, is to bring strong fiscal responsibility. It's just what I do. I grew up with parents who taught me how to really squeeze a dime out of a nickel. So many market basket chicken dinners and salads, but created the guy who I am today. Maybe I do need those papers. It's a very important election. You guys have all stayed here now until 10 o'clock. I appreciate you. Again, you see a young face, you wonder what's he gonna do in the highest position of North Reading. And I want to say, I will not let you down. I will be detailed. I will be very thorough with everything I do. I will ask questions that might be the tough questions to ask, but I'll ask them. And when you go to the voter's box, you're going to remember my voice, because on all these construction projects, I'm going to be able to tell you the alternatives and the impacts to every single one. So when you go to the voter's box, you will remember what I say. Thank you, and I appreciate your support. See you on May 7th.
When you see this young face here.
I wish I knew that line.
Thank you very much for the dialogue, the debate, the discussion. Thank you to all the candidates for stepping forward, the newcomers, the seasoned people. I am appreciative of all of the discussion that we've had. I'm always appreciative of the discussion that we've had. Again, it is, like Nick said, everyone's motivated for the same cause. And I am truly honored to have served on the select board for you for the past 9 years. I ask for your vote to continue that service, and I will continue to do the jobs that I've been doing, listening, analyzing, and bringing these perspectives to the board. Even if I'm a minority of one, I will still plan to do that, and hope, however, that we can reach a consensus. So thanks again. I hope your vote on May 7th.
Thank you all for listening to me tonight. For a school committee member, the two most important factors to me are looking at the educational health and the mental health, the whole student, and that's the two lenses which I'll make all decisions. The reason I brought up extended recess a couple times was just to show you, not even being on the board yet, a problem that I see, a way that I tried to find some creative solutions, tackled it, and I will bring that same ingenuity and resourcefulness to any problems we have, including budget issues. I'm a full-time working mom in a demanding field. I'm a professional multitasker. I think voters can be confident that I'm going to show up, put in the work, and make decisions that are in the best interest of our students. I know all of you here are probably reading the transcript, probably seen many letters to the editor supporting me that I'm really proud of. I have presidents of 2 different sporting leagues, presidents of PTOs, vice presidents of PTOs, treasurers of PTOs, lifelong North Reading residents, business owners, and I hope they put their trust in me, and I hope you will too. I want to make great decisions that will have a long-lasting impact on this community.
Yeah.
So the words that have really resonated with me tonight during this discussion was try harder. About 18 months ago, when I decided to join the finance committee, I had that same feeling in my stomach going, this budget is not going the right way. And that's when I really decided to get involved. And sometimes, to my lovely wife's lament, I try a little too hard sometimes. I put 110% into everything I do. It's one of my blessings and curses, I think, as my family tells me all of the time. What I can tell you is I grew up in a town much like this in Western Massachusetts. We were faced with Prop 2.5 override after Prop 2.5 override. The exact same type of town, very, a lot of houses, a tight-knit community, and we had to make very difficult decisions. I can also tell you, by experience at the YMCA, I've always found a way to give the kids the most we can with the budget we have. And regardless of what happens this June, although I support the override, I appreciate that each and every one of you is going to have your own opinion, and my promise to all of you is that I will do my very best to give every child in this town everything we can with every dollar that we can. Thank you.
So I just want to say, in the 6 years that I've been on the school committee, I would love to have some of the discussion we've had tonight at school committee meetings, especially on the budget. So for those of you who are asking tough questions about our budget, please come to those budget hearings every year and ask those questions when we're discussing it. The school committee budget doesn't happen in a vacuum. Okay? We don't decide it all in a corner somewhere. So please come and be involved in those discussions. That's the only thing I would say about this discussion. I'm continuing to be excited. I've been on this committee for 6 years, as I mentioned, and I'm just as excited now as I was then. The challenges are greater. We've got the budget issues, but I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and I, to echo Tim, whatever the town decides, we'll do the best we can to deliver a great education for our children. So thank you. And I hope to see you.
All right, well, I look forward to working with all of you and representing the town of North Reading with the Community Planning Commission. You can vote for me on the ballot here, but there's no one voting against me. It is what it is. I'll keep it short. I think we all feel the same way. Thank you to all of you for coming tonight, for everyone for being passionate about our wonderful community. Thank you to the North Reading Public and Town Committee, and thank you to Kitty's for hosting us tonight, and God bless you all.
So, are you applauding that it's over with, or that they said something wise? Hopefully both. So, thank you all for coming. Thank you for your contribution for the family that lost their residency. That is very much appreciated. Your passion is obvious. Excuse me, please. Your passion is obvious. You have been paying attention. You have been on, the Zoom calls and however else we do it, technologically speaking. All right, so we are a wiser and smarter community as a result of this debate. We got an idea of what the candidates stand for, what they're looking to accomplish. So I applaud them all for everything that they do, everything they're going to do, and everything that they've done. So thank you all very much, and have a wonderful evening.